Dry creek beds are one of the most beautiful naturalistic features you can have in a garden, but how do you do it? And how do you do it right? And that's the topic we're going to be addressing today. I'm joined by Leah Cherner from Delta Dawn Landscape Design. It's so great to have you with us again. Welcome back to the show. And, everybody loves the look of a dry creek bed. It's imitating nature, creating these kinds of water features in our garden features in the backyard. But there's some rules about doing and don'ting on this. One, just simply on the aesthetic side, is that it's really supposed to be an imitation of nature, right?
Yes. And if you go look at a creek, a natural creek, you'll see, especially a dry creek in nature, which we have a lot of here in Texas. During the summer, go look at a dry creek and you'll see that there are rocks of different sizes. You'll see that the creek is not in one straight line. It actually kind of meanders. You'll also see that there are plants growing along the banks of the creek. And so, you can try to imitate.
In the middle of the creek.
Yeah, and sometimes right in the middle. And so I do like to kind of mix it up, have three different sizes and types of stone at a minimum, and go from there.
Yeah, and just picking out the stone can be a lot of fun. I love going to stone yards, and you can see all these different kinds and imagine how they would work together. It'd be a lot of fun to do, but vary the sizes. I don't think I've ever seen a creek uniform black smooth stone, for example.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I would use river rock, which is the rounded kind of stones.
Yeah,
import those for the bed of the creek, and then you can use any kind of stone for the banks of the creek, but usually those would be larger stones.
Right.
And then you can mix in some smaller stones with the whole thing.
Let's keep on the stone strategy, because when people create these kinds of spaces in Austin, they use a lot of our native stone, which is beautiful. And those are some good strategies in terms of, varying the sizes, things like that. In terms of making it look natural, and when you place the stone, one of the things that came to mind is I would use some of the same rules I apply to a naturalistic planting. For example, using odd numbers of plants or odd numbers of stones together in groups.
Yes, definitely. The rule of threes is always good. Don't make it symmetrical, because things aren't symmetrical in nature. And sometimes, in a creek, there will be a big stone in the middle of the creek, and you can do that.
For hopping over.
Yeah.
Right? So that same rule can apply to the plants. We'll talk about that in just a little while. Let's talk about preparing the site.
Yes.
This is something that a lot of people will probably get antsy about, because they want that naturalistic look. They also don't want weeds, and so they may think, I have to put some kind of barrier down. What do you think?
I don't recommend using any kind of barrier underneath the dry creek, because that can actually compact the soil and kind of make your drainage actually worse. So I would say don't put anything down. Just excavate out, about twice as wide than it is deep, and just put the river rocks down in there and put your bank rocks on there. And the one thing that you need to remember is that water always goes downhill. It's very reliable. So you'll want to be working on an existing slope. But yeah, I don't recommend that. Using any kind of weed barrier.
Okay, so you raise an interesting point. Is we have to think about the dynamics of water flow in all this. So where you direct the dry creek bed, because there will be times when dry is not the appropriate adjective, right? So let's talk a little bit about the layout of that in a yard. You don't want to aim a dry creek bed at your back door, for example.
Yeah. Usually we think about we want to direct the water away from our foundation and toward trees or a rain garden or some other place that will be more useful in the landscape. And so you can start a dry creek at the bottom of a downspout or by a driveway that tends to get flooded.
That makes a lot of sense.
And it's actually really easy to figure out the slope. All you need to do is just get a yardstick and a level, and that tells you, that can really be a very simple way to figure out the slope that you're working on.
Yeah, and you don't want rapids, typically.
No.
So don't pick a too harsh of a slope. But even in relatively flat backyards, you can do this.
Yes.
So, and they are beautiful. I have to say, I love dry creek beds. There's a lot of artists in Austin who create those, and just amazing. So let's talk about plants. Okay, there's different strategies, different kinds of plants. First off, you know, a wide range of plants are going to work, right?
Yes, I like to mix in enough kind of seasonal interest. So have some evergreen things in there, like your sedges and your liriopees. Ground covers are great. Frog fruit is a great one. And then if you wanted a shrub, you know, like a beautyberry would be really nice. Just mixing up different textures and colors is also really nice.
Right. I would think that when you're citing these as well, in terms of thinking about the plants, that when you use a lot of stone, there'll be reflected heat. So even though you're thinking this is going to be a wet space because it's a dry creek bed, you really should also be choosing plants that are xeric, that can take those times when we don't have any rain, right?
Yes.
That's an important survival strategy.
And sometimes, I mean, a lot of the times a dry creek will be near a tree, or, you know, it will be partly shaded by a tree. And that can create its own issues with, you know, leaves falling into it and stuff like that.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, that's the next topic really, is to talk about the maintenance on these. And, you know, a lot of people think, okay, it's a naturalistic thing, just kind of leave it alone. But I would think you'd want to blow out the leaves from time to time, right?
Yes, and I have a battery-powered cordless blower, and I just love it. It's perfect for that. It's real easy. Just get out there and just zap the leaves out, and then you can put those leaves in your compost pile. You know, and you can use those leaves. There is going to be some amount of sediment and debris that's going to just get trapped in that rock layer. But that happens naturally, you know. That's what happens in nature, and so you can weed it from time to time, but you can also let certain things kind of volunteer and come in there.
Yeah. Mother Nature finds a way, right?
Yes.
And you've given I love the sedges, and this is their natural place in the environment, is alongside streams. But I would encourage people also just to look up any kind of riparian plant that does well here in Central Texas.
Yes, and then things like muhly grasses, they love being close to having those deep roots that anchor the soil. And I love using mistflower because it's a great butterfly plant. I like using bulbs because they give you, like daffodils or caladiums will give you seasonal interest.
Rain lilies too.
Rain lilies also, yes.
One of my favorite plant families, and such beautiful colorations on the rain lilies. So don't be afraid of experimenting. Use you've got a great little plant list that you've recommended there. The sedges, the frog fruit. I like the beautyberry because that just looks so, to me, streamside and peaceful. Graceful plant.
Ferns.
Yeah, that's a great one to mention. And again, the grasses really kind of break up the soil and get that water kind of percolating down, which is a benefit, really.
You want to slow down the water.
Right. And the rocks do that in part.
Yes.
But there's benefit to that because it's like a deep sink of water into your yard, which is wonderful.
And it helps with infiltration, and that's one reason why I don't use the landscape fabric underneath, because you really want some of that water to infiltrate.
Right. Well, real briefly, I want to tell people how to be in touch with you. You, again, Delta Dawn Gardens Design is your business.
Yes, and that's...
You have a podcast as well.
I do. So Delta Dawn Gardens, my business is deltadawnGardens.com.
Okay.
And then my podcast, Hot House, is at hothousepodcast.com.
All right.
So that's where you can find more.
Well, I'm sure people will search you out. Thanks so much again for being on Central Texas Gardener.
Thanks, Tom.
Great to see you. And coming up next, it's time for deafening.